Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we'll continue with part 13 of constructing the car project. Now, before we continue, there's something that I noticed. So I was going to put a light catcher over here. So let me just quickly do that. And I'll tell you guys the problem that we have. So I'm just going to say maybe 50, 100. Yeah, I think that's good. And I'm just going to do a project from the side view. So I'm just going to go over here and do a project like this. Now this is, I'm going to refine this a little bit, but I'm going to explain to you guys what the issue is. And I'm just going to do a freeform plan between these two surfaces like this. And maybe I'll add just a tiny bit of crown like that. And tell you what the issue is. So like that. And if you look at the highlight over here, you'll see that it's kind of weird. So it's actually doing a sort of like a sunrise over here. Now, the reason for this is because there's a little bit of difference between the shape of the body side and also this feature right here. So what we need to do, so if you look at it from the top view, sort of like this, you'll see that there's a little bit more crown or a little bit more shape on the body side, whereas on the flat, the wheel, the flat that connects the wheel flats, it's a little bit flatter. So what happens is it's creating this kind of weird twist in the surface. So what I would need to do is I would actually need to fix the body side. And if you look at this, let me just isolate this and the canvas. You'll also notice that this body side has a lot more crown than the what the canvas indicates. So I think we will need to fix it all the way through the window. Okay, so now that the issue has been explained, let's actually try to fix this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the construction history on this because I don't want it to be a little bit too messy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fix the window. So let's see if I have the curves that I made it with. Yes, I do. So now this has history, so I think that's going to be a little bit easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the pivot to the center. Actually, we should move it somewhere on the center, not the center of the curve, but center of where the glass is. So I'll probably place it right here, around here. And I'm just going to scale it so that we get less crown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a non-proportional scale, and I'm going to use my right mouse button like this in order to reduce the crown value like that. Now we want to do it so you'll see the curve moving like that. Now we want to, when we do this, we want to make sure that it stays, the shape of the glass stays similar to what it needs to be. So I'm just gonna keep, so right now the crown is a little, I think it's pretty similar right now. I think I can reduce it a little bit more. So I'm just gonna keep going like that. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to match this curvature of these surfaces to the canvas. So I'm just going to keep going a little bit. And right now it doesn't match really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull all of these curves to make sure that they're snapped where they need to be. So I'm just going to pick this curve, snap it here, and I'm going to pick these curves like this. I'm going to snap to this point, and I'm just going to snap everything over here. Now, I'm going to adjust the size of this and the position, but let's actually match it first. So right now, okay, so I think the curvature is pretty good. It's a little bit flatter than the glass, but I think it needs to be like that. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kite this for a second. And I'm probably going to move everything together. So I'm just going to grab the curves like this. Now, because of the reason why I'm moving the curves is because it still has history. So right now, I'm just going to move it just a little bit up like that. Maybe I adjusted the curvature a little bit too much. So as you can see right here, you will see that it's not matching quite as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it up just a little bit to make sure that this matches over here. I might pull this out just a little bit so that it's somewhat still reasonable. So you want to get it close, but you still want to reduce the amount of crown that the curve has. Okay, so I think this is pretty good. Now it's not matching as well here, but I think that's gonna be okay. So maybe I'll just pull this out just a little bit, just a hair, like that. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just keep it as is. Okay, so right now I think it's matching pretty well from the canvas to the canvas. Okay, so I think I'm gonna just leave it like that. Now, I don't know if this is going to be enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building all the surfaces as I did before, and I'm going to try to match it as much as possible. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create this rail surface again. So I'm just going to pick rail 1 and 1, natural. And I'm going to pick this right here like that. And let's project it from the side view again and see if that works. Now, if I compare it to the previous one, I think it definitely looks a little bit flatter than before. Maybe not. We'll check it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a project from the side view. So I'm going to grab the surface and I'm going to grab this curve, projecting like that. That looks good. Now, it looks like it's a little bit in. I pushed this. I did push that in. It's a little bit flatter here. So we'll see how that stacks up. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a trim. Actually, before I do it, I'm gonna do a trim and I'm gonna compare it to the canvas. So I'm just gonna click on the canvas layer, pick the canvas, and I'm just gonna do a hide unselected. And I'm going to compare it to the body side. Okay, so it does look like it's gotten a little bit better, but I think I might need to do a little bit more adjustment. So you'll see that it's matching pretty well here, but you'll see that it's going in a little bit. Now it's kind of inevitable because right now I do need to push this on a little bit, but let's try to make this a little bit flatter. So the second thing I can do is I can, right now this is just a real surface. So let's see, I think there might be one of these might be the original. So let's do a comparison between the two just to see what's going on and how much it improved. So you'll see that this, okay, let's see. I'm just gonna go to the top view. Now this is the original surface, and as you can see, especially right here, that I was able to reduce the crown a little bit. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a trim convert on the surface like that. And I'm just going to delete the real surface like that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a fit curve over here. And I'm going to use this in order to reduce the crown. Okay, now with this, you have to be careful as you want to make sure that you don't do it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a surface and I'm going to do a line to the curve. Now, the reason why this is popping up is because right now the curve has a history, and the curve the history of the curve is dependent on the surface. And you'll see that this is a fit curve. So what you want to do is do a delete construction history and do it again. So, oh, actually, before we continue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do actually, yeah, I did do a trim corporate. Okay, so I'm going to align the surface to the curve, and I'm going to do a blending one to make sure that the transition is a little bit better. And I'm going to tap the highlight on, and I'm going to move the curves using transform CV, and I'm just going to move it slowly, and I'm just going to move it in the Y direction. And when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that this is not creating too much of a rainbow shape. So you just want to do it a little bit until I think we're still good over here. I can just do a little bit more. Right now, you'll see that if I do it too much like this, you'll see that we have too much shape over here. I think this is acceptable, maybe just a little bit more. I think this is pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more. Yeah, I think this is probably our limit. So right now, if you see, let's do a comparison between the two. Oh, I don't have the original surface. Okay, so let me just do a rail again. And you can see a comparison on how much. It might be very little, but every bit helps. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab these two surfaces and let's do a project from the side views and see how much we were able to move it. Okay, so we were able to reduce the crown. So you'll see that this is how much we were able to reduce the crown by. Now, this might not seem like much, but every bit helps at this point. So we were able to move it about 2 mils without affecting the highlight too much. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Now, let's see. I think this, before we continue, I just want to make sure that we have history on all of this. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to retrim that. Okay, now comes the body side. So just going to do a rail for now. Just going to make sure that this curve is connected to here. And I'm going to do a rail. I'll do it on the fit curve. Okay, so now the math is a little bit simpler and I might just do parallel. Now there is a chance that we might have to adjust this, but we'll have to find out. And let's see. Okay, so let me just do a project here. Like that. And let's see if it works a little bit better than before. Oh, actually, before we continue, what I'm going to do is, because since we created this surface, and it is quite a sizable surface, so what I'm going to do is, right now it's only a rail, so what I'm also going to add a little bit of crown, or make it a little bit flat at the bottom, to make this transition a little bit better. So I'm just going to do a height and select it. Because we did a rail, it's just flat. So right now we just got it just has a nice highlight, but let's bend it a little bit until we can make it until it's we'll bend it to a point where we make it a little bit flatter, but we're just gonna make bend it until it's not well, we still have to keep the highlight somewhat reasonably clean. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at the highlight. Right now, I did a parallel mode, but let's make it the natural. Okay, it looks like parallel is better. So if you see right here, you'll see the body side, it's tracking nicely like that. So we want to make sure that it's also tracking like that on the model. So let's see. I'm going to, right now, I'm just going to leave it a parallel, and I'm going to draw a line. from this surface to there. And I'm going to have the highlight on. And I'm just going to make it flat until this until we make this a little bit flatter without making this the highlight weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the transform CV and I'm just going to move it in the Y direction using my middle mouse button. Okay, that's a little too much. Actually, well, I think I'm just gonna have ISO angle on. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say multiple, because right now I can't really see anything. And number of bands, I'm gonna increase that to 25. So what we are looking for is, right now it's tracking really nicely from the side view. And we want to make sure that it's not doing too much of a rainbow shape. Okay, so I'm just gonna slide it to the Y. So I think that's still good. Then maybe I think that's starting to be a little bit too much. Let's see. I think that's still good. I think we can move it a little bit more. Okay. Okay, I think we still can move it a little bit more inboard, so I'm just gonna keep moving. Okay, so now, okay, before we continue, right now the highlight should be tracking the this curve right here, and I think we can move adjust it a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the stretch tool. Oops. And I think what needs to happen is, right now it's when you look at it from the side view, it's a little bit down. Oh, oops, it's a little bit down here. So I think I'm gonna make it a little bit more parallel. So if you see right here, oh, maybe, yeah, I mean, especially right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move it back and forth to make sure that it's tracking a little bit better. So right now it's going like this. We want to make sure this point is a little bit lower than here. So I'm just gonna shift it just a little bit. Oh, stretch just a little bit so that it rises up a little bit so that it tracks the body side nicely. So right now with the ISO angle tool, I can see a little bit of crown, but I think this with the highlight, I think it's actually tracking nicely. So maybe I can just do a little bit more. I'll have to see. Okay, I think I'll give it a little bit of, I can push it just a little bit more. Okay, so transform CB. Okay, maybe that's the limit. Well, let's do a comparison between the two. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is right now I did move it quite a bit inboard. Let's see. So let's check the shape. So I'm just going to do a freeform line between this and this. Now, one of the other things that we can do is we can actually give more crown to these surfaces, but because there are so many surfaces, I want to reduce the amount of work as much as possible. But if worst comes to worst, I can always add a little bit more crown to the surfaces. Now that is going to take some, that does mean that we have to make some adjustments to the surface down here. So let's find out if our adjustment worked. Let's see how this, okay, so I think it looks a lot better. Before the highlight was kind of going all over the place, but I think right now it's looking a little bit better. Now the transition is a little bit better. And now, if that's the case, let me actually build some surfaces and put a fillet here so that it mimics better of what the actual vehicle does. Okay, so I'm just going to do a test. So I'm going to do a freeform blend here also, like that. And I'll just connect the two using a surface fillet. I'm going to change that to chord. I'm going to change it to G2, and I'm going to increase the size of the fillet. The form factor, I'll just leave it at 1, or change to 1. 200, maybe a little bit bigger. I'll go 300. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to do a fillet between these two. So I'm just going to change that to default, and I'm going to change the quarter length to 100 and see what kind of fillet I'm able to get with these two. Okay, that looks pretty good for now. So I think the highlight runs actually pretty well. Yeah, I'm actually quite happy with this. So I think, okay, actually, let me just make sure that this shape is close to the canvas. Let's see. Now, I think I probably should have pulled it out just a little bit more outboard, because right now you'll see that it's matching here, but not much here. So I think I'm going to do that. And actually, let me just undo all of this. Make sure it doesn't blow it up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this one and this one. I'm going to align it to, I'm just going to delete the construction history because I'm going to be adjusting this a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to just using the stretch tool. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm just grab these two surfaces and click on the canvas, pick this one. Okay, so now this line needs to be a little bit more outboard. I'm gonna use the stretch tool. Just pull it a little bit more outboard. Now, that might have an effect on the highlight here, so I'm gonna check to make sure that it's not too much. Well, so if you see right here, let me just snap it back. Previously, it was like that, which I think looked a little bit cleaner, but as I pull this out, I think it's accentuating the amount of, I guess, like a sort of rainbow shape on the highlight. So maybe I'll just do it up to this point, and maybe I'll need to make this a little bit, maybe I'll need to add a little bit more volume back into that. So let's see. Yeah, I'm not liking the shape too much. I mean, the highlight's good. It's just that right now it's a little bit, I guess, tilting towards the bottom over here. But we do have a lot of feature going in here, so maybe that'll be okay. I'm not sure. So maybe I'll just add a little, maybe I'll just make this a little bit flat, or add a little bit of crown back into it. Just a little bit. So maybe I'll just a hair. Maybe 0.5 mil. It has too much effect on it. Okay, so maybe I'll just leave it for now. If if this creates a problem, I'll have to do some adjustments. But I think I'll just leave it as is. Okay, so right now, but because we do have a little bit of space between the body side and the shoulder, I'm just going to snap it back. So I'm going to use position, and I'm going to fit it to the curve, and I'm going to say blending. Expressive rules 2, and I'm going to reduce the blend factor to 0 to make sure that they're moving at the same time and at the same rate. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good for now. I'm not too big of a fan of this, but I think at least the highlight runs, pretty smooth. And so I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, I think this did have a little bit of effect on the highlight. So right now it's going up from, I think the highlight looks pretty good. I think part of the reason why it's doing that is right now the crown is a lot more similar than before. I think there's a little bit of, I think it's a little bit closer here compared to here and here. So what I might want to do is add a little bit of crown onto this surface right here and pull it a little bit outward. But because the general shape is a little bit better than before, so you'll see that it's not going from large, small, back to large. It's a little bit better than before. So I know it's a very subtle change, but this subtle change, because the surfaces are so big, it can have a much dramatic effect. So I think in order to help this, I might add a little bit of crown, back to the surface, and subsequently the bottom ones too. Okay. So that's it for part 13. We will continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.